Hello, and welcome to Odds on Bundesliga Matchday 13. We have Ronan Murphy to analyze with us all the games and to tell me if I should put my money on Leverkusen to win the Bundesliga 4.0 right now, Ronan, before the odds drop.
No, never put money on anyone other than Bayern Munich to win the Bundesliga. As good as Leverkusen are and have been this season, you can never rule Bayern Munich out. No matter how close it seems like someone could get to winning the title, it's not going to happen. Just like we saw on the last day of last season with Dortmund slipping up against Mainz, which you would have imagined was the easiest game ever for them to win. But no, they didn't. So, yeah, Bayern Munich every season from here until 2300, I'd say. Yeah.
Well, Leverkusen is still breaking all the records in the Bundesliga. 11 victories, 1 draw, 3-0 victory at the weekend. And now it's time to analyze this new match day. We have a great game, Leverkusen Dortmund on Sunday. So, guys, remember to leave your comments. Of course, press the like, subscribe, and now let's go on with the show. Xabi Alonso deserves Real Madrid next season. The problem is that also Ancelotti, I guess, deserves some credit. This guy won something, I believe. Carlo Ancelotti. So, guys, if you want to bet in the Bundesliga, you have the information below. Get the 1xBet welcome bonus of 130%. Use our promo code and get this good offer. Well, Ronan, we have to start with a non-very sexy game on Friday. Darmstadt Cologne for the relegation battle. Darmstadt, they are now saved with only 9 points, with only 2 victories. But the problem is Cologne is even worse. 6 points, 1 victory. This kind of games, as we always say, the both teams to lose games usually end up in a draw.
Yeah. Well, that looks the most obvious, and it seems like one of those games where it's going to be a snooze fest on Friday night. We'll have some great Champions League games already this week, and we'll probably have more great Champions League and Europa League games as the week goes on. But Bundesliga on Friday night does not look like the most appealing one. No. It's gonna be a bore fest, I think. But the Cologne two Friday night games in a row, but they actually weren't too bad last Friday. They lost obviously 1-0 to Bayern Munich, but 1-0 to Bayern Munich seems like a good result for a team like Cologne. Their manager came out before the game and he was expecting a kind of a disastrous result, and it didn't really happen. So I think they showed good defensive qualities in that one. They forced Bayern Munich to kind of try to recycle the ball over and over to create chances, and they didn't create a lot of chances. Their set pieces were poor. So I think Cologne, they showed enough in defense that they can keep good teams at bay, so they should be able to keep a team like Darmstadt at bay too. But the only thing is they can't score goals either. This is not a game that screams there's going to be a lot of goals. Darmstadt are scoring 1.3 goals on average per game, and Cologne are scoring 0.8 goals on average. So that is not a game that kind of sells itself as one to tune into. Both teams to score no could be an option here, 2.32. Under 2.75 goals is 1.92. They're both decent options. But like you said at the start, this one has draw written all over it. So that's my tip for this one.
Yes, it's a good game to skip. You remember last week we were talking about Heidenheim Bochum, a draw, a game to avoid, and at the end was a draw, a goalless draw, so a game to avoid. Next one, much more interesting, Bayern Munich, Union Berlin. Now we have a new manager appointed to Union Berlin, Bielica. In the post-Urs Fischer era, they got a draw against Augsburg. It's a bad place to start working in the Bundesliga, I guess, going to Munich.
It is, but you look at those odds, nobody expects them to do anything. 23 is the odds for Union Berlin to get a result here. I'm obviously not going to say that Union Berlin are going to get a result here. I'm not that crazy, but yeah. Bayern Munich, like I said, in that game against Cologne, they were frustrated by a team that can set up well defensively, and I think Union Berlin has shown us in the past they can be that team. So perhaps under the new head coach, you pronounce his name far better than I can, I think. But I think
I'm not sure.
yeah. I think I think they could get that kind of new manager bounce after the appointment. Obviously, they spoke to Raul, another Real Madrid legend, but he turned them down, so they went for Plan B. But hopefully, Plan B could do the job, because it's going to be an interesting kind of proposition to watch Union Berlin in the Bundesliga with a manager that's not called Urs Fischer, because he's managed every Bundesliga game they've played so far. He's got them into the Champions League, so he's kind of one of these iconic figures. So whoever was going to replace him has a difficult job, and traveling to Bayern Munich could be the most difficult way to start your job, of course. But like you can see on the screen there's zero value in Bayern Munich. It's just not worth looking at, putting any money on Bayern Munich. Obviously, you could stake your mortgage on it and get a tiny bit back, but I don't recommend even doing that. Like, if you look at even home is only 1.53, so there's not a lot to go by. But the only thing is, Union Berlin are coming into this one on the back of a decent result themselves. They ended their consecutive losing streak. They had gone nine games in a row losing, so they were able to pick up a draw against Augsburg, and that should kind of give them a bit of confidence going into this one. And obviously, the new manager, they have a new kind of setup with Kevin Volland in behind Fofana and Behrens, and that should be that we might be able to see that again against Bayern, and that could cause Bayern Munich problems. But I don't think this is going to be a high scoring affair either, and that's why I'm going for against the bookies' expectation of Bayern winning 5-0 or whatever they're probably thinking. I'm going to go for this one, Union Berlin plus 2.25 and the Asian handicap. I think there could be good value there.
All right, let's see how serious Bayern Munich plays this game after also playing in the Champions League against Copenhagen, so they won't be also very tired. Let's try to find more value. And the odds are better in the next one, Bochum Wolfsburg, because the bookies expect here a draw. Bochum getting a lot of draws lately, and the good point for them is that they are not losing against direct rivals. They played the last 4 games against teams in the relegation area, and they are drawing a lot, as the game I mentioned before against Heidenheim last Sunday, whereas for Wolfsburg, they have more quality. Perhaps we could tend to back them, Ronan, especially after beating Leipzig, but away from home, only 1 victory and 5 defeats this season.
Yeah, I think the thing with Wolfsburg this season is they've been kind of inconsistent, and that's down to the way 𝐿𝐭𝐿𝐴𝐵 is setting them up. He's been chopping and changing the formations. He did it again against Leipzig. He went back to the 3-4-3 that had worked in the cup against Leipzig, and it worked again in the league against Leipzig. But in other games, he has gone with a 4-2-3-1 setup. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what approach he takes against Bochum, because obviously they're not the same caliber of opposition as a Leipzig are. So he might go back to 4 at the back. Be interesting to see what happens in this one. But in the past, we've seen that Wolfsburg are usually the better team in this fixture, and you would expect them to be the better team again this season, especially with the way things are going. Bochum obviously have a decent amount of points, but that's because they've drawn so many games. They've drawn 7 games so far this season, and so they kind of eke out these results. But on the other hand, Wolfsburg, they either win or lose. They've only drawn once this season, so it looks like a game that Wolfsburg should win. And both times they played last season, they were kind of very convincing results. It was 4-0 at home and 5-1 away. So I don't predict a huge result like that for Wolfsburg, but I think they should have enough. And I really like the odds of Wolfsburg just to win this at 2.6. I think they look great, because they've kind of extended from when I had looked at it last night. It was 2.52. So it just seems the market is, as we close in on the weekend, Wolfsburg's odds are rising, and I can't really see why that's happening, because this could be a match where away is also a good one worth looking at. That's 4.2. I think Wolfsburg are the better team here, and they should show it.
All right, good odds indeed to back Wolfsburg. Next game is Gladbach Hoffenheim. Also great odds in all 3 outcomes, actually, especially if we think how strong Hoffenheim are away from home. 16 points, no defeats. Of course, it's not easy to win in Gladbach. They were coming from 4-2 defeat against Dortmund. They were 2-0 up very, very soon. At the end, they lost. Tough one, this one, because checking the stats, we could have reasons to back both teams, actually.
Yeah, the way they're coming into this match. But I think, like you said, in that game where the Gladbach let the lead slip against Borussia Dortmund, I think they were unfortunate in the fact the weather played a large part in that. It was
Raining
really,
a lot,
really rainy now in the second half. For that, it made things difficult for both teams to play, which kind of benefited Borussia Dortmund because they have the better players. So the better players were able to kind of force that result through. And fourth goal to make it 4-2 kind of was just one of these ones like you see in ice hockey where the goalkeeper is pulled out and they're scoring into an empty net. It felt like one of those ones. Daniel Malin was just kind of stat padding at that stage. Garbage time, as they call it in American football. It seemed like one of those. So it could have been a lot closer. And I think Gladbach, like I've said in previous weeks, they have been playing well at times and they've been putting in good performances. So it's just a matter of turning those performances into results. This could be a place where they do it. Hoffenheim coming into this one, they were lucky, I think, to get anything from Mainz last week. Wout Weghorst, I had mentioned him in the video, but he turned back into the Wout Weghorst we're used to seeing and loving from the Premier League days. He had 2 shots for an XG of 0.05. So that's the Wout Weghorst we come to expect for Hoffenheim usually, and it could be the same here. This one, I expect there to be goals in it. It should be open-ended. Gladbach won both of the matches last season, 3-1 at home, 4-1 away. So there was goals for both teams in both ties. Both teams to score yes is 1.38. And in Hoffenheim's games this season, both teams to score has happened in 86% of those games. So it seems like a good one to look at both teams to score. But if you're looking for more value, like you said, both teams do have high kind of wins. So I think Gladbach to win 2.35 as the home team looks good here.
Well, talking about ice hockey, I don't know if you've seen I think it was in Belfast, no? Petr Cech playing as a goalkeeper. A random thing. Of course, his career was mainly in England, in Chelsea, but funny enough to see Petr Cech now as an ice hockey goalkeeper. Next game, Leipzig, Heidenheim. Very difficult to find value here. Leipzig to win is only 1.2 after they trip to Manchester. They lost, but they scored a couple of goals and they put pressure on Man City. They are showing a very poor record away from home, also in the Bundesliga, but at home, no defeats. And Heidenheim, they are very poor as visitors. They only got a point at the beginning of the season against Dortmund.
Yeah, they did. And Heidenheim, they kind of started the season well. They started the season looking like one of these teams that weren't afraid after getting promoted. They were scoring lots of goals. They were playing nice counter-attacking football. But it's kind of all seemed to come crashing down to earth. And a trip to Leipzig is not a good place to be going, especially after Leipzig's week. Obviously, they got through to the next round of the Champions League, so that's great. But they would have hoped to have recorded a historic result against Man City. They looked like they might have gone in half-time. And against Wolfsburg in the Cup, they have fought well in the league. The same result as the Cup happened. They lost. And I think they're going to be really disappointed with that. Marco Rosa came out with him after the match and said he was angry at the performance because they dominated the game. The XG was 3.72 to 0.86 and they lost. So it's not really the performance from Leipzig that you expect in front of goal. But then we saw Openda scoring twice in the Champions League. So he'll have his confidence back going into this Heidenheim game. And Heidenheim seem to be a team that can concede lots of goals. Like I said earlier, they do score goals, but they have conceded lots recently. So I think this could be a match where Leipzig win and don't concede. So Leipzig to win to 0 is 2.3. Both teams to score no, 2.05. There's value there because Heidenheim, surprisingly, only in 57% of their games so far this season, both teams have scored, which seems surprising given the fact that they played out 3-2s and 3-3s and results like that early in the season. But it seems to be a matter of if they don't score, they're going to lose and not score at all. It's going to be one of these games where they could lose 3 or 4-0. So half-time, full-time, home looks like a good pick. But I do like the value in Leipzig to win overall. 1.27 looks good. Yeah.
Well, Heidenheim, 16 goals conceded away from home, only 1 point. They are the worst away team in this Bundesliga, together with Werder Bremen. And let's talk about Werder Bremen, because the next game is actually Stuttgart Werder Bremen, only 1 point away from home, and they are playing against Stuttgart, a team that is keeping the dream. Great victory in Frankfurt. It's not easy to win there this time. The hero was Undaf and not Girassi, but they keep winning. Also, they beat Dortmund. They could keep the dream until the break, at least until Christmas.
Yeah, I think that's what they're hoping, obviously, to continue to start, because they had another week of them kind of underperforming their XG and still getting a win. So third in the table isn't a surprise for them, or it isn't undeserved for them. This is kind of the Stuttgart that we've been expecting. Girassi is obviously overperforming his XG, but some of the rest of the players don't seem to be kind of living up to their potential. And if they can, they could turn into one of these teams that could surprise everyone and qualify for the Champions League. But you're just kind of waiting for it all to come crashing down to earth, because no one saw this coming at the start of the season, especially after selling so many key players. Endo to Liverpool, Mavropanos gone, these kind of players that you kind of have been talismanic figures at Stuttgart, kind of these big players that kind of left. But obviously, Girassi will be here, but will he still be here after January? If he keeps scoring, continues the way he's going, there could be a chance that a team in the Premier League, the likes of a Fulham, maybe could come in and make an offer for him. So, as well as they're performing, if they can keep performing this well, they could end up losing their best player. So, it's kind of going to be one of those seasons where you want them to do great, but not too great. That kind of one. But yeah, Bremen on the other hand, it's hard to predict them weekly basis, because they're kind of inconsistent, like you said, at the moment. And I think this could be a match where it could be one of these tight affairs that Stuttgart just do enough to kind of get the win. And Stuttgart to win 1.44 looks good enough. The draw here seems to be getting bigger and bigger as the week goes on. It was 4.7 yesterday. It's up to 5.4. So I don't think people are putting much value in a draw or Werder Bremen to get much from it. But I don't think Stuttgart will have it as easy as expected. The correct score, 2-1, 8.5 could be an option here. So if it does end up being a close match, like I'm predicting, Bremen Nation handicap plus 1.25 looks to be good value, because it's coming in at over 2. So there could be value to be made there if it's a tight game.
All right, keeping it close for Chinonso. This is a Stuttgart win with both teams to score. And on Sunday, we have 3 games. Mainz Freiburg is the first one. And here I'm very surprised to see the odds. It's true that Mainz, they are pretty much alive. They are getting lately results and defeated in the last 4, but they are third from bottom, and they are welcoming an European team like Freiburg. It's true that they are having a poor spell right now in the Bundesliga with 4 winless games, but still, I think we should respect Freiburg, and I'm surprised to see the away team as the underdog here, Ronan.
Yeah, it is a surprise, but I suppose when you look at how Freiburg have been performing, they've been poor themselves. These are 2 poor teams, and it's a bit like that Friday evening fixture we're talking about. It could be another of these snooze fest matches, because goals aren't coming too often. And honestly, was obviously out for Mainz last week, and Barkok started in his place, and he missed so many chances. It was just so frustrating to watch him kind of miss so many chances. And it seemed the same in Freiburg's match last week against Darmstadt. They missed so many chances of their own, and it seems that these teams, they just can't score. It's just not happening for them up front, and that kind of indicates that this is going to be a poor match. Mainz averaging 1 goal a game so far this season. Freiburg managing 1.3 goals a game. So that draw it's looking appealing. 3.65 looks like a good one for a draw here, because it could be one of these 0-0 draws. But even if it's a 1-1 draw, it could be worth looking at. So that's why my tip here is total goals under 2.5. I think this is not going to be a great game.
Okay, only 12 goals scored this season for Mainz in the bottom three in the play-out to the Bundesliga 2. Right now, we go to the top of the table. The biggest game this weekend is Leverkusen Dortmund, even bigger, I would say, after Dortmund's victory in the Champions League. They will play for the first spot against PSG, but their time in Europe is being great, beating Newcastle, beating Milan, and now perhaps they become also dangerous playing away in the Bundesliga, and perhaps is the team to end this great spell of Leverkusen, keeping the record. The thing is that Leverkusen, they can chill and relax in Europe because their homework is done. So we have a great game, and I guess everyone expects a goal feast here.
Yeah, you would expect a goal feast, and I think Dortmund, if any team can be the team to frustrate Xabi Alonso and stop that win, it would be the most frustrating team to watch, Dortmund, because you don't know what they're going to do in any particular game. Obviously, they came back, like we mentioned, they came from 2 goals down to win 4-2, but like I was saying, it was one of these weather games where the best players kind of made the difference, and 𝐜𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐽's tactics didn't really. There wasn't really much evidence of the tactics. It was kind of one of these displays where the best players played well enough to get the win. And I think that their Champions League win last night was kind of the same. 𝐵𝐼𝐻𝐺𝐼𝐻 looked to be one of the best players in the world at times. And at other times this season, he hasn't even been on the team sheet for Borussia Dortmund. So he'll probably play in this one, but will he be the 𝐵𝐼𝐻𝐺𝐼𝐻 we've seen over the past week, or will he go back to the 𝐵𝐼𝐻𝐺𝐼𝐻 that couldn't start a game? So that's kind of where Borussia Dortmund are at. It's hard to see them getting any sort of consistency at any stage, whereas Bayer Leverkusen are the exact opposite. They're really consistent at the moment. They're getting goals from the wing backs. They're getting forward in numbers. They're creating chances. And the only thing for them is, even in that kind of good run of results at the moment, their striker hasn't been scoring. Boniface hasn't scored in 5 games, so he kind of needs to sort that out if they are to challenge for the Bundesliga title against Bayern Munich. Like you were saying, the odds for that are 4 at the moment. If Boniface can get the goals and Bayer Leverkusen can get a win in a difficult game like this, because we saw them obviously get a point against Bayern Munich earlier in the season, but they need to be beating teams like Borussia Dortmund to show that they are Bundesliga quality, or Bundesliga champion quality. So I think Xabi Alonso should hopefully have enough to push him over the line. Leverkusen have won their last 8 games in the Bundesliga. They tend to beat Borussia Dortmund at home. They have 12 wins in the last 31 meetings, so you would think that they would have enough here. Obviously, like you said, there should be plenty of goals. Total goals over 2.5 is 1.4. Both teams score, yes, 1.45. So they both look like good options for this one. But I think I'm just going to go for a straight Leverkusen win here, because it looks good for a home team that's in such good form. That does look like good odds.
Yeah, there is not much value on the goals market unless you go against the trend, because over 3.5 goals pays only 2. So obviously the bookies expect a lot of goals. Ronan, we were checking the news around this game, Leverkusen Dortmund, and the name Florian Wirtz was mentioned because he's been targeted by Man United and I guess by most of the big clubs in Europe. I heard a statement that he is the most exciting youngster in Europe. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think he can be. Obviously, Musiala in the Bundesliga kind of compete for that talent, and Jude Bellingham, as we all know, he's up there too, especially after winning the Golden Boy. But Wirtz can kind of do things on the pitch that few others can. He's just such an intelligent player. He's the player I think that people watching Bayer Leverkusen from the outside thought Kai Havertz was, and when he does make the move, he will continue to be a top player. Whereas Havertz, I think he's kind of come crashing down to earth. But I think Wirtz, whenever he does move, and it'll be well over 100 million that he'll go for. And obviously, we're hearing Bayern Munich being in the race, and that's not really a surprise. But you'd wonder where he would fit in at Bayern Munich, and are they going to spend another 100 million after buying Harry Kane? So he would think that perhaps Chelsea will open the checkbook, because their checkbook is just so big they can buy everybody. Yeah, it's nothing to them. It's like us going in and buying a takeaway coffee. I think Chelsea buying a new player. So yeah, I think Wirtz could be. He is destined for big things, and he continues to dominate. He's been involved in in more assists and more goals than any other player in the Bundesliga in 2023. So he just keeps going from strength to strength. So I do expect big things for him. So hopefully we'll see him get a move where he fits in and that he'll play a lot.
Well, you can also read the news, team news, and everything related to the game in Oddspedia in the tab dedicated to it, and you can learn a lot of things about the game and get informed, obviously, about the lineups and interesting facts before to place your bets. I hope Wirtz doesn't end up as a left back, no, as Kai Havertz, but well, the important thing is playing, obviously, and Havertz is now scoring goals, so good for him. Let's see how Wirtz evolutes and where we see him next season. And last game to finish the video is Augsburg Eintracht Frankfurt. Frankfurt was in a good run until they lost to Stuttgart the previous week. It's only the second defeat of the season. Here we have Frankfurt with 6 draws this season, and we have Augsburg drawing the last 3 games this season. We see the odds, and again, the obvious bet here is a draw.
Yeah, it does seem that the bookies look very evenly split there. You can see it on the screen, 2.75 for the home team and 2.6 for the away team. It seems like one of these ones that's evenly split and kind of has a draw written all over it. I'm not sure I'm definitely going to go for a draw here, but we kind of see how it goes, because Frankfurt, I think they changed to a back 4 last weekend, and it backfired immediately. They conceded in the first minute, so we learned nothing from their switch to a back 4 last weekend. By the end of the game against Stuttgart, they reverted to the back 3. So I'd say Top Muller might go for the 3 at the back again here against Augsburg. That experiment we didn't really see a lot happen with it, and obviously Augsburg don't have the same striking caliber that Stuttgart have, so there should be a chance for Frankfurt maybe to get something from it. They were looking for a point in that game, and they probably would be happy enough to take a point in this game too. So the draw does look like a favourable fixture. Our favourable result in this, the most common result in the past in this one, is 1-1. So that kind of indicates that this has a draw in it. Augsburg won this fixture 2-1, the home fixture 2-1, and drew the away one 1-1 last season. So this could be another one where it is a 2-1 or a 1-1. So that's why I think the odds on Augsburg Asian handicap 0 actually look good, because you wouldn't think Frankfurt can get too much here, because Augsburg have been kind of drawing their way to mediocrity so far this season.
Actually, Chinonso agrees with you. He's going for an Augsburg double chance with both teams to score. So all the results mentioned by you will be covered by Chinonso's prediction. Well, Ronan, let's see your safe bet for this week.
Yeah, my safe bet this week is Bayer Leverkusen Asian handicap 0. So I think Bayer Leverkusen to take something from Borussia Dortmund this week.
And the ACCA?
ACCA, I'm going for a smaller ACCA this week. Just 2 teams to win, but 2 teams that are being given good odds to win. Gladbach to win and Wolfsburg to win. 5.85, which it was when I calculated, but from the odds earlier on the screen, it looks like it's even more now. So we could make a bit more money from it.
It's very good money for a double. Indeed, we had very good odds in this Bundesliga show. Best of luck to everyone. Thanks for your analysis, Ronan, and see you next week. Bye-bye.